All right. So for starters, don't get mad at the title, the unexpected rise, right? Rise up. We're Falcons, right? Like, come on. You see what I'm trying to do here. But there is a position that is completely unexpectedly changing over the offseason. It was a position of weakness last year. And yes, I am going to say that it was. And I think it will be, if not a strength, it definitely will not be a liability this year, and this position is starting to stick out. All right. So, first, this whole thing started in an interview with Richie Grant, who's only 25 years old, who mistakenly called the Steel Curtain. Remember the old school Pittsburgh Steelers, Mean Joe Green, all that good stuff, and the Steel Curtain. Well, he called it the Iron Curtain, and we're not going to blame him because, you know what, he wasn't alive for either one of these things. And so that's all right. But he said, hey, you know what? We've got one of those. We've got one of those iron curtains, is what he said. But what he's talking about is the difference of playing defensive back when you are behind a solid defensive line compared to what the Falcons had last year. All right. The Atlanta Falcons have only had 39 sacks in the last 2 years combined. That is last in the NFL. And this year they spent 46 million on the defensive line and a third round pick. And I'm going to talk later in this video about that third round pick and what I think that could become. But they took time. Defensive tackle Taquan Graham said, I think it's money very well spent. I agree. And I think they're doing good. So let's look at some of the stats. And then I can't take you to the article itself right now because I'm getting some of this from an Athletic article, but it is behind a paywall. So if you want it, go subscribe to the Athletic. It's phenomenal news. It's phenomenal news. Or you could just keep watching our videos if you want cool Falcons news too. All right. So the 9 defensive linemen, this is what we're talking about here. I want to talk about resources. An outside linebacker on last year's initial 53-man roster had an average age of under 25. They were 24.7 years old on average. All right. And they played in an average or appeared in an average of 24.7 regular season games. That means on average, the defensive line was second-year players. This year's projected 10-man group. All right. And let's look at some of the names. Calais Campbell, Eddie Goldman, Graham, Harrison, Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata. Don't forget about outside linebackers, Lorenzo Carter, Bud Dupree, Arnold Ebiketie. All right. D'Angelo Malone. Their average age goes from 24.7 to 27.3. Not old, but experienced. They have an average of 87 games played. So now all of a sudden you go from a group of guys that are averaging in their second year. You've heard about the second year slump. You've heard about all these kind of things to a bunch of guys who have played what is the equivalent of 5 to 6 NFL seasons on average. Now, are there a couple of guys like Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, and Calais Campbell that are bringing that up a bit? Yes, but then there's a lot of young guys too. And that's exactly what you want to have. You don't want to have a bunch of old guys. You don't have an average age of 31 or 32 because everybody on your defensive line is over 30. You want to have the older guys, the vets, the seasoned vets like Calais Campbell. Yeah, it's probably his last year. Maybe he's got another one after this. I don't know. All right, you want to have him. I know you see the line back there. We're a Lions channel first. We had Sports Talk Detroit. Now we started this channel. Like, I wanted Calais Campbell in Detroit. You got him. Congratulations. That's fantastic. You already have, and then you have guys that are older, but they're still balling out. Guys like Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata. This is exciting. Your interior defensive line is arguably the best in football. So you're going to bring a good run defense. You're going to bring a pass rush from up the middle into the face of the quarterback, which we know is difficult to do. We know that's difficult to do. So this is a really good article. It talks about Calais Campbell coming in. He's 6'8", 320. By the way, has 99 career sacks. He's coming back. He wants sack 100 for his career. And Chris Lindstrom, who you all know well, phenomenal player, said, I played in my rookie year, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the biggest human I have ever seen. And I still have that feeling. This is what he said. Obviously, his resume speaks for himself. Obviously, it does. Arthur Smith also said something really smart in this. He said, he was such a pain. We don't swear on this channel, so I'm not going to say what he said, a pain in the rear end to game plan against. All right. He said, if you want to know who to sign, just listen to your players. Who are the guys they hate blocking? Get those guys. Glad he's in a Falcons logo and not a Saints logo. This was him talking about David Onyemata. So you have players talking about Calais Campbell and what he brings. Now you have them talking about how much they hated playing Onyemata when he was playing for New Orleans. Like, this is fantastic news for the Falcons. So yeah, there's an unexpected rise of the Falcons because of the unexpected rise in the defensive line. And you can see what this coaching staff is doing. You can see what Arthur Smith is trying to do. He's saying, we are going to win like we did in Tennessee. We are going to run the ball, insert number 8 overall pick, and we are going to stop the run, get 3 of the best D tackles in the game. And that's what they're going to do. And they're going to, the best defense is a good offense. The best offense is a good defense. Like, we've all heard those sayings. They're going to run the ball. They're bringing back a 1,000-yard rusher. They still spend a top 10 pick on a running back. Like, this is Bijan Robinson, right? Like, transcendent talent. And now they're saying, you know what? We're going to take care of the defensive line. And I've said this before. And they have a good offensive line. And I've said this before. And this is true. We saw it happen with the Lions last year. And I just want to flip over to the other side of the ball. And I'm sure I'll do another video on this at some point with the Falcons. The Detroit Lions have a very good offensive line. Okay, we have 3 wonderful players on the offensive line. Guess what? The Atlanta Falcons grade out as what is possibly the best offensive line in football. They grade out. It's behind the Eagles. It's probably behind the Lions. You have a top 5 offensive line. And what a good offensive line does is it makes everybody around them look better. It gives more time for the receivers to get open. It gives bigger holes for the running back. It makes your offense look more efficient. When you look at the Lions' offense and skill position players, they shouldn't be a top 5 offense, but they were. The Atlanta Falcons have the ability to do this, but we're talking about the defensive line because a great defensive line can do the exact same thing for the defense. If you build in the trenches, you are going to have great success. So there you go. The unexpected rise of the Atlanta Falcons starts with the trenches. They have the best trenches in the NFC South. Therefore, I think they have a great opportunity to win the NFC South. There it is. Hope you like the channel. Hope you like the Falcons content that we're putting out here. Rise up, right? And we will see you on the next one. Hit that subscribe button so you're getting